a game, but it's not fair. I break the rules, so I don't care. So I keep doing my own thing, walking tall against the rain.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Another side of Voices of Women of Color, and we're here tonight with our mayor candidate Stan McCauley. And Stan, say hello to the people.
Hello, everyone.
So we're going to have a conversation with Stan this evening, and we're going to ask him some questions, maybe some hard questions, because we want to know what's his vision for Hartford. Where does he see himself as the mayor candidate, and where he wants to take Hartford. So we just want to, hear about his platform a little bit. So I'm going to turn it over to one of the voices. Let's say hello to Tina.
Hi.
Tina, why don't you ask the first question?
Hello. Stan, what do you see, what vision do you see for Hartford for the next 5 years?
Well, for the next 5 years, I see Hartford emerging as on its way to being one of the top 10 small cities in the United States. And a lot of people are saying, well, how are we going to get there? How are we going to go from the fourth poorest city in the United States to one of the top 10 cities in the United States? And what we're going to do is we're going to invest in that which matters most, human beings. When you talk about economic development, you talk about productivity. Where does productivity come from? People. All right? And if you really want to see resources untapped, invest in people. We have untapped talent in this city.
When you say invest in people, as to how are we going to invest them in more job training, education-wise, what's the plan to invest these people? What are we going to invest them into?
Well, while there's job training and education, there's people in Hartford who have a vision. All they need are to be given resources. The governor can find $70 million to give to Cigna to create 200 jobs. Then for far less, we can invest in small businesses and entrepreneurs. All over this region, particularly in North Hartford, you have untapped talent. When I say untapped talent, I'm talking about musical talent. I'm talking about the ability to act. I'm talking about the ability to do all kinds of things, to be creative. Why aren't we investing in people? There's a reason why Google hires PhDs, because their minds create things. Well, we've got creative forces and creative thoughts and ideas right here in North Hartford that are totally not being tapped. You want to train people for construction, that's great, but why not tap into the people who have ideas and turn those ideas into money? Remember, Motown became a multi-million-dollar operation simply because people had creative ideas. You turn those ideas into reality, and we're talking digital education, digital entertainment, media, motion pictures, gaming, printing, all kinds of things that we want to be doing. And that's how we're going to start to turn Hartford around, by investing in people.
Okay, and where does North Hartford fit into that plan? Because when we talk about investing into people, we have to talk about North Hartford. North Hartford hasn't been paid attention to in so long, as far as education, as far as housing, as far as programs for the seniors. Where does Hartford residents fit in to that plug for your vision in the next 5 years for Hartford?
North Hartford is critical to this because the talent pool that I'm talking about is in North Hartford. In my opinion, as goes North Hartford, so goes Hartford. As goes Hartford, so goes the region. You're not going to be able to do anything significant in this city without dealing with the issues in North Hartford. And it's a multifold strategy, if you will. Whether you're talking about education, whether you're talking about public safety, policing, all of it is centered around this one thing. Which means that what we have to do is bring business to North Hartford that's going to invest in the human capital and those ideas.
Shona, what do you think about that?
Well, when I look at North Hartford, I want to know what will, when we say North Hartford, what will your duty of care be? Like, what will your perspective be for that? We can address the issue of developing jobs, but economically, if the state doesn't have the money to develop the job, how can you invest in the people? How can you motivate the people? We have a lot of people that's college educated, high school graduates. How can we entice them to want to live in the North End with the increasing crime rate? with the small business ownerships closing, with foreclosure coming down on homes, how can we entice them? That's my part, to want to stay in the city. What are your thoughts on for that?
You have to lead by doing. I moved to North Hartford to Enfield Street as a conscious decision because you're either going to be about it or you're going to talk about it. I can make policy and set policy living somewhere else, and then it doesn't really affect me if it doesn't work out. If it doesn't work out, I got to come home to a community where it ain't working out.
Exactly.
So that's the first way of holding me accountable. Secondly, if we take what you said, the state doesn't have the money to invest. That means then we've got to get private companies to come to North Hartford that are going to invest. If we've got college educated, high school educated individuals in North Hartford who just need the opportunity to be unleashed, then that's how we're going to turn around our small business opportunities in North Hartford. If you take a look at Barber Street, what it used to be years ago, well, it ain't never going to be what it was because it served a community that is no longer there. But we can turn Barber Street into a new street of commerce to serve the community that's there now. The reason why young people don't live in this city, the reason why they don't live in North Hartford, is because there's no opportunities. Young people just want opportunities. They don't need affordable housing. They don't need this. They don't need that. They need opportunities.
Oh, everybody needs affordable
Well,
housing.
hold on. Let me explain.
A lot of people don't talk about affordable housing.
Let me explain. If the people are there, the affordable housing will be there too. Because affordable housing comes because there's money to be made off of affordable housing. All right? Young people aren't driven by the access to affordable housing, they're driven by opportunities. And if those opportunities are there, then the need for affordable housing will follow. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but well, let's say the opportunity is there, but these companies choose to bring their own people and hire other people and not invest in the North End and the residents of the city of Hartford.
I also have a question to direct towards that, because if we develop these jobs and provide the people with the opportunities, my question focuses on public transportation. The public transportation system in Hartford doesn't allow you to go back and forth to work. So if you have to work on a Saturday, the bus doesn't start in the proper time, or Sunday in the proper time. How can we address the issues with increasing transportation lines so that people that have to work outside of the city will be able to have reliable transportation to get there?
Well, if we're talking about moving people from Hartford outbound in order to get to their jobs.
Well, most of the jobs are outside of Hartford.
Well, that to me...
With the lack of economic development going on downtown.
That to me is a separate issue from the one we were talking about earlier, where we're talking about having jobs in North Hartford, which means people don't necessarily need transportation, public transportation within that community. This empowers the community. It also builds an economy within that community, which is why all efforts toward trying to do this in the past have been thwarted. Because once you develop an economy within that community then has political clout. And there is the key to why it has not yet been done. But to address your issue on transportation, as someone who takes public transportation, I'm taking public transportation home from here. All right, someone gave me a ride here. Me and my escort gave me a ride here. All right, so getting home tonight will be by bus. Now, if I didn't have a lot of equipment with me, I could probably walk home. But as it is, I have to get on a bus, go downtown, wait for a bus to go back uptown, cross town, down Vine Street, over to Enfield Street. Now, there needs to be cross-town buses. But the problem is that the public transportation routes aren't designed for the people who use them. They're designed for efficiency and expertise by people who have no sense of what it is really like. So if you ask me, the public transportation system really needs to have input by the people who use it. And that's 80% of Hartford's population. And until that happens, there won't be a change. And not only that, you know, the city meetings, after school meetings, board meetings, city council meetings, all those meetings happen by people who have cars and want to go home by 5:30.
Exactly.
All right. Well, if 80% of the city is being, you know, using public transportation, well, how do you get home from work, get your kids home, get back on a bus, come downtown for me. It's impossible.
With a time lapse.
With a time lapse. So it's not that Hartford residents don't want to be engaged and they're not concerned. The system is set up so they can't be engaged, despite their best efforts, because there's no way for them to get from point A to point B using public transportation.
You're right. What do you feel? Is there a question that you would like to ask Stan?
Yes, I just want to know what was his safety, what is his plans for safety, keeping people safe in Hartford, Connecticut.
You're talking in terms of public safety?
Public safety, yes.
At the heart of the public safety issue is a conversation that's going to take a lot longer than we have time for here, but suffice it enough to say in 30 seconds, our public safety issues directly connected to the underground economy, which is quietly as it's kept, is keeping Hartford afloat. And is sanctioned, in my never to be humble opinion, because in a town this small you can't have that kind of activity without people in power knowing what's happening, where it's happening, and how it's happening. And the crime that we see associated with that is over territorial distribution of an illegal substance.
Well, they need to do something about it because, there's a lot of young youths out here, they're getting shot up, there's no place for them to go, My nephew, he just got shot like 6 times, He doesn't, he can't get no job. He just got out of jail. He can't get no job. And when he goes and apply, he sometimes have to lie because he want to get the job because they don't want to hire him because he's a felon, so.
Well, there are a lot of things that need to be done around that. I'm a firm believer and advocate of clean slate. Once your time is done, it's done. It's like a mortgage. You set the mortgage on fire, that's it. So, we have a institutionalized system that keeps people as a permanent underclass because they made a mistake. And as long as there's a permanent underclass, people can profit off of it.
Exactly.
See, Hartford has an industry. It's called poverty. And there's a lot of people who make a lot of money. And they like to play games like, well, people don't contribute to the tax base. Now, we more than contribute to the tax base. We're supplying you with your income. All right, so if we never paid taxes in terms of those that are affected or considered on the poverty scale, the management of poverty is very lucrative. And it generates hundreds of millions of dollars for the surrounding areas that look down on Hartford. And so poverty management needs to be pushed back with jobs. And jobs is the only solution to the problems that we have here in the city, including our grand list. Everyone wants to talk about economic development, but they don't do it. Why don't they do it? Because they don't want the outcome from it. This is not rocket science. Not when you have people that make policy and execute policy and have the decision with a phone call to make things happen. They also have a decision with a phone call to stop things from happening.
Exactly.
Well, I figure if they failing our children in school with their education, a lot of these children shouldn't have shouldn't have graduated from high school. A lot of them can't read or write. So sending them out to a world to find a job where they can't read or they can't, comprehend what the hell they're looking at, we have to go back to the educational system too.
Well,
because the education city of Hartford allow our children to be ignored. We don't have books, we don't have paper, we don't have pencils, we don't have anything, but they can find the money for the suburban kids and they can ship them in to our city. Our city, free transportation and a free ride, and our kids are left behind.
Right. Well,
the schools that's in your district, you actually have to go online and apply for. Because they done turned into a so-called magnet school, but they didn't do nothing about the teachers and the creativity of the education and upgrading the education so our children can actually learn and read and spell and calculate.
All right, I don't know if this is the direct quote, but Dr. Adamowski said every system produces what it is designed to produce. If poverty is the main industry here, then you need to have an ongoing supply of people in poverty. If you graduate a child who cannot read, function, and operate in the world whereby he can generate an income for himself, what is left? He's gonna be in the poverty sector. All right, he's going to have to feed his family or himself or his loved ones, which means he's been pushed into an economy which people are doing very, very well.
For months I have been reading the Hartford Current and Northern Agents, and I have been watching the mayoral candidates. And my question somewhat pertains to the governor, to Governor Malloy. I just recently watched a press release where Sean Wooden stepped down from the mayoral candidacy, and he said it was at the suggestion of the governor. What role does the governor have to play when it comes to the mayor? I mean, I'm looking at it as backdoor politics.
As he comes to have someone step down.
I read an article in the Northern Agent, just to quote Mr. Wooden. He stated, Governor Malloy asked the mayor and him to see if they could work together to save the city from a divisive campaign. And my question is, why is the governor concerned with who becomes the mayor of Hartford? Shouldn't we be working on the bullshit that tends to stink up the community instead of politics? I mean, I have never yet to see Sean Wooden or the governor door knocking the North End. So I didn't know what his concerns with the city of Hartford was, or what that was about. It seems like it's already set in stone that he will be the next.
What?
It's not Madam, or what is it, Mr. Sean.
We don't know what happened.
Right.
You know? Sean could be stepping out because Sean wanted to step down.
Right.
Because he could see no way to win. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
We can't put that on the Governor Malloy.
You know, I mean, I'm not trying to put that on the governor. I mean,
two sides
I
to
just
every
was reading an
story.
article, and he said that's why I am proud to endorse the mayor. And I know that I was at the African American Alliance platform, and I know I heard him say that he would never want to work with the mayor. Now he's saying that he's building a bridge with the governor and the mayor, and I just don't want to see another Abe Giles era, like backdoor politics.
Right.
So my reason for bringing this to you is because we have a duty of loyalty, a duty of care, and a duty of consideration to the constituents of Hartford. Okay. So when I look at this question and I'm trying to address it, I'm like seeing so many backdoor politicians standing at the door to get in. There's 30 people running for 9 slots. And I'm not really like understanding what's going on with no one has their vision. No one has a mission.
No one has a
community
platform.
service investigator in Hartford, I check the mission statements. I check the vision. I check the values. So what I'm basically seeing is I just don't see any missions, I don't see any visions, and I don't see any values. I just see people saying this is the person that you should endorse.
I agree with everything you said, and if you look been just a couple layers beneath, what you've identified indicates major problems. If a person has no vision, then a person has no assessment of what is wrong. Vision is not, my wife tells me stop saying this, but a vision is not rocket science, okay? Point in fact, everybody's vision as it relates to Hartford should be the same. The debate should come in how do we address the problems, because vision is what's wrong. I mean, it's an assessment of what's wrong. So once you know what's wrong, now your vision is how do you correct it? And so the debate should be how do we address what's wrong? If people have no vision, then they haven't identified the problems within the community.
Well, they can have vision, but not know how to go about fixing that problem. Everyone has vision.
Everyone does. I would challenge that. Everyone does not have vision.
Well, everyone does not have vision. Some might think they have vision. The thing is, how you going to address the problems of the residents of Hartford when it comes to education, fair housing, and employment? We want to know what you're going to do to get it to point A to point B.
And that's why my vision has remained the same as long as I've been talking about what Hartford needs. Hartford needs jobs, period. Jobs will increase the wealth of the community. It will push back crime. It'll grow the grand list. The grand list is the only way the city pulls money in from taxes. If you want social programs to increase, because they are necessary, then we have to have a tax base. We cannot afford to have people leaving the city. Our public works department is on the edge. We got trees falling over all over the city. Someone's going to get killed soon. A tree fell in front of my house, was out there for 20 hours. Public works came, cut the tree in half, left the remains on either side of the street. The other day they came and collected it, picked it up, put it at 280 Enfield, where there's an abandoned building, and it's there now.
And it's there now.
They don't have the resources because they don't have the tax dollars. But how do you get the tax dollars in? You make Hartford an attractive city. If you want to make an attractive city, you got to fight crime. How do you fight crime? With jobs. So that's why my assessment remains the same. How you get those jobs in here can be a debate, and it can be an honest debate. How you address the educational issue can be the debate. But why should our kids be being shipped out of the city? It's like Carla said, all right? Our children are being treated like cattle. And cattle are raised on a plantation. And so when you have a governor come and tell you who's going to be your leader, that robs you of your right as citizens. Your right as citizens, the power of the government is vested in the hands of the citizens. And when elected officials start to tell you who to pick, who's going to be your leader, then it's the people versus the machine.
Similar to the Board of Education.
Well, yeah, because I'm going to challenge Stan a little bit on this broad statement of jobs. Because we do have jobs, and some of them are people who live in Hartford, and they play a very interesting position in their role and their titles and on the job, right? So I had a bunch of parents calling me, Spanish women from Clark Street School, about the UConn reading program. Y'all know. And apparently it was UConn who had been there for 1,000 years. We like them. We see them at Parker with the kids about literacy, reading. And I had some parents call me and say they felt like the process was unfair and that the student governance wasn't involved, and that, we know this, if it's UConn, both of them are not going to be able to be in one house. It's like, two kings trying to serve one master. It just don't work. Both of us can't, be in one house, and we both think you have the parents who want to keep that. And, Calvin tried to explain to me, well, if UConn doesn't stay, that would be on UConn, but how could you have UConn in a village? What I'm asking is, the people that you hire needs to be responsive and conscious of the community in which they serve. And maybe he's a little confused because he's supposed to be, we door knocked over there, and or what is he, Broad Street, one of them off streets, and his name was on the mailbox, and I know he don't live there. So he has no
connection.
This is what I'm trying to say about Calvin Rodin in terms of your state representative and your education. How could you really be advocating or making sure that there's a few other politicians with that issue?
There's a conflict.
But we're focusing on him right now. And like when we talk about strategic partnerships, and we check back and see who Calvin Rodin and his whatever the process is, because I'm still waiting for him to send it to me. It was about over a month ago. Okay. But we'll follow up on that.
I have one last question.
Can we go a little longer?
Can I have just one last question, because she's gonna cut it anyway. My question affects the youth of Hartford. Right now, I caught the bus downtown on a Saturday. I wanted to take my son to some events. I went to the is that the old State House? And the gate is locked with the slave. There's no access inside. You can't go inside. You can't view it. Walked to the Wadsworth Amphitheater. It was nothing of interest, of nothing or my culture that I could identify with. So then I walked to the Science Center, and the cost of the Science Center alone was ridiculous. So I look and I say, wow, how much does it cost to get in there?
$17 or something like that?
No, like $45.
$45.
And this,
and I'm looking for not that I want a free pass, but I do. I mean, I'm just saying, what could we develop for the children of Hartford? I mean, we have this science center, and we bring in tourists, we make money with it.
Because they didn't make the science center They didn't make the science center for us. Because if they did, they would know the situation of our economic situation, and the price wouldn't be so high.
Why can't the youth of Hartford enter the science center? My question is, this is my question. As a parent living in Hartford, living in a district that's affected by poverty, seeing other parents that live in the same district affected by poverty with nothing for the children to do, with an increased crime rate, why can't the children of Hartford attend the science center for free?
Exactly.
I
children.
mean, like we show like you show your driver's license.
Yeah.
You say I live in Hartford. I live on Hartford.
Right.
Why can't our children attend the science center and utilize it as a resource?
Right. I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. But the problem is
Who owns it?
systemic. That $45 ticket or the high price ticket is the outward manifestation of the way people think. They don't want your children in the science center. You see, and there is no elected official who's going to be real about the situation. That is why you have individuals such as the governor, who sat at my house twice and we had long conversations, is trying to pick someone who has abandoned the ship for his own safety and let the passengers go down, gets to shore and says he wants to lead the rescue mission for the survivors. That ain't a leadership to me.
No.
That's failure. That's puppet master. That's new generation gatekeeper. And Hartford
Well, this
is
is what I
matured
was trying
beyond
to say
that.
about Calvin Rodin.
Right.
Not to put, because me and I agree with some of the stuff Malloy doing.
And
I think he
I
makes some
like-
fundamental
I-
mistakes.
Well,
but I like what
the
it, I like the
6,000
whole.
people being laid off. Now we're going to have 6,000 more families with children that won't be allowed access to eat.
Well,
Right.
that depends on what who
I mean,
families they
Well,
are.
municipality. In
Right.
let's take it down a notch from the state and bring it local
To
to the
Hartford.
municipality,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because this is what you're running for,
Right.
right? There has to be a point where we're checking behind the people who have the jobs, and if
Exactly.
they are
Loyalty,
well, I don't see,
loyalty.
but see, this goes back to what
They're
Stan
not
is
playing their
saying.
position.
What position? It depends on who position, who strings is pulling a position, right? Because what will be the standard for who you're employing? Like,
Right, and
these
that's-
are
There has to be a
people-
policy and procedure in place.
Yes.
It's
because then you have the jobs, and we're hiring what we have now.
Right.
Because you know why I'm challenged. I'm asking this because if we recycle people here on different, like you used to work here, now you work
Right.
here. Like, how do you prevent that?
You
from-
prevent that by making sure that the mayor that gets into office in this town, in Hartford, which has a strong mayor, all right, he is just short of a sovereign, the way that the charter is accountable to you, the people, all right? I've already said publicly, I've said this on Channel 3, I've said it on every radio interview, that there will be a clean slate. Everyone that serves at the pleasure of the mayor can start signing, looking for jobs. All right. Everyone that serves at the pleasure of the mayor right now should be getting their resumes tight. Start fielding them, because there's a strong possibility that I might be the next mayor, which means they will not be working for me. Now, there's no need for panic and crisis, because Governor Malloy changed everybody that worked at the pleasure of the governor. The President of the United States changed everybody that works at the pleasure of the President. You cannot go to war with another man's generals.
No, you can't.
Okay?
You have to have
I
your own
am
shoulders.
being elected by the people of Hartford to bring forth the vision that they agree with to address their problems. And I will be undermined at every level if I do not change the generals.
I
And
agree.
then these people work as an extension of me. When the job is not getting done, pedigree, family lineage can't protect them, because
But
they
how do
work
you
for.
what is the process to decide that the job is not getting
He just
done?
said the resume.
When
It was
I hear
checked.
from people such as yourself,
That's what I want to
about
know.
this
Like,
is
if
not
people on the
working,
ground-
then I get on my phone and I call up the superintendent of schools, and I'm going to ask them, why are people calling me about an issue that is on your side of the fence?
It's not being done.
This is unacceptable, and as the chief elected official, I'd like to sit down with you over coffee with some members of the community and find out why your policies are affecting the people who you are supposed to be serving in a negative way.
Last question.
Last question,
Last
because
question.
we have to sign out.
Okay.
And
Last question. What I've been, I'm hearing all the answers and the questions and everything. What guarantee of your loyalty that you can give us?
Oh!
Good question.
All right. because we as you know, as residents and you know, Hartford, we elect all these the mayors, the governor, and they get into the office and they totally forget about the people who put them there. What loyalty? What can you give us?
All I can give you is what I've done. A person's actions are going to be best displayed by what they've done. My loyalty to the voices of women of color is 100% solid. As far as I'm concerned, the voices of women of color are the most effective political action team in the state of Connecticut.
Oh, I thank you.
Period. I'm not saying that because I'm here.
That.
But it's been my pleasure, okay, to be able to provide video services for the voices of women of color to help them get their message out.
And it's your first time.
And this is the first time I've ever been on the couch. It's the first time I've ever been able to speak anywhere where the voices of women of color
Tell them wrong place.
are. And I spoke one time in 3 years, and I was immediately silenced. And everybody looked at me and said, "Excuse me, do you have an opinion?" And then that was it. But I say that to say this: I'm dedicated to this community. I moved to 294 Enfield Street to make the point that though I could live anywhere in the city, I choose to live where some people say is the most dangerous place, because if I mean change in the community, then I got to be part of that community.
That's right.
You lead by action. The old way was the king led his army into battle, and when you got the king, the war was over.
Okay.
You don't send troops into battle while you stand
on the
protected
sideline.
somewhere.
No.
You cannot effectively manage the fourth poorest city in the United States by living in a gated community or behind iron bars. All right. You can't touch the people of the city of Connecticut going out riding on your bike with police escort. All right. You need to be out there and be tangible and touchable to the people. You cannot set policy for a city such as Hartford and hope for an outcome that turns the city around and not live here. So anyone that works at the pleasure of the mayor is going to have to be a Hartford resident. I'm going to have to eat at their house. And if they can survive 60, 90, 120 days with no pay, fine. You're not collecting your first paycheck until you physically live in the city. And there are people out there that are willing to make that kind of a move. There's people all over the world, and there's people here in Hartford who are willing to do the job, be held accountable, and know that if they don't do the job right, they can work somewhere else.
And on that note, Hartford residents, we want to say, here's Stan McCauley, mayor candidate. I hope you enjoyed this segment of Voices of Women of Color and conversations with the mayor candidate, Stan McCauley. And have a good evening.
Good evening. We do that.
That was good.